when it came to left-wing content versus right-wing content, did you see a difference between an individual's post or a corporation's posts? Like, was one side doing more corporate, one side more people, individuals?
I definitely saw more corporate posts that were leftist, and I saw more just individual people who were right-wing. And then a funny thing is with how they treat certain words. So there was something called the bullying slang list. So if I call Ian over here, if I say, Ian, you're a Trump humper.
Fair.
and you report it. I, as a moderator, can see that Ian reported that comment. So it's called a name face match.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
So that gives me more power. Now the content moderator can say, hey, Ian himself didn't like that comment. And so, but Trump humper, it stays up no matter what. Even if you report it, yeah, it stays up.
So
but if I call you a feminazi or a snowflake,
oh snap!
Really?
Snowflake. Wow.
Yeah.
Trump humper is okay.
Trump humper is okay. Nazi's okay. Snowflake and feminazi are not okay.
Feminazi is no good, but Nazi's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So that gives an example. Kind of what you're getting into. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. That's what I assumed. That corporations are pushing the leftist narrative.
Yeah. And
the people who follow it blindly. And then the individuals are right wing. There's two ways to look at it. For one, the right is individualist. Mm-hmm. So you've got more people on the right. They want to take care of themselves, mind their own business. And the left is more collectivist. So they have a hierarchical collective structure, a corporation telling them what to do and think, and they go along with it.
Yeah.
But in that sense too, it's interesting. That's why that meme exists. That without moderation, it would all be right wing, because the individuals would all be the ones speaking. And the left would not have any kind of group at all. They wouldn't be doing anything. In fact, they'd probably just become right-wing, seeing nothing but right-wing memes and ideas and things like that. Yeah. So one of the interesting aspects of that then is, it seems like it's not just a left-wing bias, it's a pro-corporate bias. Like, does that make sense?
I mean, we see that just recently. We've seen that with, what was it, Expensify, that sent out that email.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Expensify sent an email out to all their consumers, basically saying, literally in the subject line, vote for Joe Biden.
And there will be a civil war.
Or there will be a civil war. And you mentioned this collective force of the left wing, and it's like the Borg, like you mentioned on Tuesday, the Borg from Star Trek.
Yeah.
Resistance is futile.
Yep.
And then they were throwing, who was it, the Armstrong, that CEO of that one tech company, under the bus, because he said, I don't want to talk about politics at work. Do you remember his name? Armstrong?
Which
I think it was Armstrong.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The CEO's name was Armstrong.
Which company was that for?
I don't remember the name.
I'll look it up for you.
Off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, we see that resistance is futile. I mean, they pressured Travis Kalanick to retract All Lives Matter. And that was in like 2016. That was before it became this big. But right now, if you're a corporate entity, you pretty much have to cave into the woke left mob.
Yeah. What is Expensify? Do you know?
I think it has something to do with expense reports.
Yeah,
because in the email, he's like, well, he did like a QA. He's like, well, why does a civil war matter? Aren't you overreacting? He's like, well, in a civil war, I wouldn't be able to bill out expense reports.
There's not going to be a lot of expense reports in a civil war.
Right.
So he's like, so the gist of this story is, he is a tech CEO in San Francisco, and he sent out an email to all of his customers saying, you must vote for Joe Biden. I saw some people complaining, saying, why is he using my private information for this? He should not be emailing me these messages outside of the realms of what his business does.
Yeah.
I don't think he broke any laws doing it, but he probably pissed off a lot of customers.
Oh, yeah.
But it's crazy the extent to which I don't care what my expense report tracking company thinks. When I hire a plumber, am I going to be like, by the way, who are you voting for? Don't worry about the toilet. I know it's broken, but let's talk politics. No, I say, thanks for coming. My toilet's broken. Have at it. Let me know if you need anything.
Yeah.
But could you imagine if you hired a plumber and he showed up and said, before I fix your toilet, who'd you vote for? I didn't vote, man. You didn't vote? What, you want a civil war? No, man. I took a dump and the toilet's clogged. That's what I want. I don't know what you're talking about. That's where we're at. People have gone nuts.
Speaking of that collective mind, I mean, this is similar to what Zach Voorhees, the Google whistleblower, kind of uncovered.
I'm sorry, I got to stop real quick. I have to apologize to all plumbers. I think anybody doing a hard job like that probably wouldn't be a leftist anyway.
Right, exactly.
Shout out.
Doing hard work.
kind of
This is
precludes
true.
leftism.
Now I have to apologize to all the leftist plumbers. I mean, no
my
disrespect.
gosh.
I'm just
All
kidding.
right.
I'm just kidding. Anyway, continue. Zach Voorhees, who's this guy?
Yeah, so Zach Voorhees is the Google whistleblower. So he went public about a year and a half ago.
I remember him.
He worked as a software engineer for Google for 8.5 years. And he uncovered their algorithms that are basically just trying to shape kind of that collective mind in a way, shape humanity.
It was ML fairness. Is that what he uncovered?
Yeah, fairness. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Or algorithmic
fairness.
Yeah.
And it was basically this, essentially a way to influence as well the 2020 election. And I'm also working with Dr. Robert Epstein.
Oh, yeah. That's
And
right.
he's actually my 501c3 sponsor for my foundation. And so he uncovered, the fact that Google was influencing search results in the 2016 election towards Hillary Clinton. And this guy's a classic liberal, someone who's not.
He's got photos. So
Yeah.
Dr. Robert Epstein, he's got pictures of him with like the Clintons, and he's like giving a thumbs up. He's all happy and excited. And then he was like, Google is swinging the election in favor of the Clintons, and this is scary.
Not
Or
excited.
in favor of Hillary.
Yeah.
Cool.
And he has the science to back it up. I mean, behavioral research. So
I want to have him on.
So,
Yeah.
so are we? Is this our last election? If Trump loses, and I'm not saying this to praise Trump. I'm saying if the Democrats win and the machine is favoring them to win, are we just under the boot of the machine if we can't stop it now?
yeah, pretty much. I mean, I hate to be a pessimist.
All right, I'm going fishing, guys. Hey, Ian, take over the show. I'm just kidding.
oh man, come
Let's
on,
talk
man.
about space.
no,
You ever been in orbit?
Ian's gonna make us talk about
Let's read
space.
sci-fi. Let's just play PUBG. And
Yeah, I'm gonna read Doom.
No, but
come on, man.
how pessimistic are you? Do you think this is the end?
I think there's some hope. I think there's a glimmer of hope. There's actually a lawsuit coming up. I talked to this guy named Jason Fick, F-Y-K, and he has a lawsuit against Facebook. Facebook essentially stole his page, deleted his page, and tried to sell it to someone else.
Whoa! What?
Yeah. And he had 40 million followers or something like that.
What the
Huge
heck?
account.
Wow.
And so his lawsuit might go to the Supreme Court. It might be appealed to the Supreme Court. And Clarence Thomas just issued an opinion last week on Malwarebytes versus something else. But he basically issued a really important opinion that's talking about Section 230. So there's a glimmer of hope, and it has to do with how this Ninth Circuit has interpreted Section 230 incorrectly. So
Interesting.
So when with Jason's lawsuit, basically he tried to sue them, and then Facebook's like, oh well, we're not the publisher,
Right.
but the publisher is different than a publisher. So
Right.
they're like, we're not the publisher, and as in we weren't the ones who originally wrote the content, but they were acting as a developer because they were promoting or deboosting certain content.
Right.
And so that's the argument that Jason Fick has is basically to fix Section 230, we need to have it either reinterpreted we need to have it interpreted correctly by the Supreme Court because it's been interpreted incorrectly by the Ninth Circuit Court of California, which has given additional protections and immunity under Section 230C1.
Yeah.
Not C2, because we always talk about C2.
Well, hold on. So, what, can you explain Section 230 just easily for people who don't know what it is?
Yeah, so 1996, the Congress created a law that was supposed to protect children on the internet from bad content, so that if someone has if someone hosts a platform or a message board, that message board would not be responsible for every single comment. But it gave immunity to these I hate to use the word platform, but
It's like digital information site or something. I think it's like the language.
Yeah, like there's service providers, there's information content providers, which is you and me, and then there's another category. But yeah, for the sake of simplicity, yes, it gave platforms immunity. But yeah, so the way it was designed, the way it was interpreted is fine, but the way it's been reinterpreted by the Ninth Circuit gives additional immunity to these platforms.
Basically, how it started was there was like a news website, I guess, and someone commented on it saying, I think it was the dude from Wolf of Wall Street actually who was like the subject of the suit. Someone went on a website, commented, this dude is like a scammer or something like that. So he sued the website saying, you published this comment. The website said, no, we didn't. It was a comment from somebody else. So this led to the creation of this law that said, okay, newswebsite.com can't be responsible for a comment.
Yeah.
So we're going to pass this law that says you are not responsible for this content so long as, you are not the publisher or editor of the content. Then the website said, well, wait. but we might want to remove content. I mean, do we lose this protection if someone posts a picture of like a dead cat or something? And they're like, okay, that's a good point. Okay, so you're not responsible for what users post, and you can remove things if they're objectionable. And they said, excellent. This was like God tier immunity. The lawmakers didn't realize what they had just done. Now, literally, everything's objectionable. What does it even mean? Nobody even knows. So it's a good faith effort to moderate, if it's lewd, lascivious, or objectionable. So now you get Twitter being like, this guy tweeted, learn to code. Well, that's objectionable. Nuked. And they're protected. They have immunity. No other company has this.
Yeah.
So it gets even crazier when we talk about Facebook, because Facebook has fact checkers now that are a special class of people that they choose, not individuals who just sign up and do things. No, it's their choice, their criteria. And they can say, you're a liar. They can take something you said and put a big thing over it that says fake news, which is a statement of fact, false information. This person is wrong. That is coming from Facebook and no one else. So this is what's crazy to me. If you want to make an argument that, Facebook, Twitter, whoever shouldn't be sued because a commenter said something, I'm listening. If you tell me that Facebook can appoint people to insult and make statements about other people or defame by calling them liars, well, Facebook's responsible for that. Facebook's the one who's authorized that posting. Yeah. It is not the same as a random user signing up and using it. They've said, okay, these 7 people are allowed to say whatever they want. It's like, okay, well, Facebook, when you put a card over my post, you have editorialized and you have personally published a statement. So we need 230 reform. I know Trump has said repeal 230, which would be a huge mistake.
Yeah.
These platforms wouldn't exist without it. They do need immunity so long as they're acting in good faith and they're not just removing legal speech. So you mentioned before you have some ideas on 230.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good interpretation of it. So, the way that it's been interpreted, it's that Section 230 has been interpreted by the Ninth Circuit Court of California, gives Facebook additional protections under C1. So that whole motive part, where being a good Samaritan, doesn't even apply. So in Jason Fick's case, when Facebook fought back and with their appeal or whatever, their response, they didn't even have to argue on the basis of Section C2. They just argued on the bare merits of C1, which the Ninth Circuit had interpreted which favors them. And so, I agree with you on that. I think that repealing it completely would be a disaster.
Bad.
Now, I've heard that Ajit Pai actually has authority to reinterpret or reform Section 2.
And he should have done it a long time ago. So forgive me if I have no faith in him or any one of these Republicans to get it done.
Yeah.
Can you define Section 1 and Section 2 of 230?
C1 and C2,
C1
right?
and C2?
So I don't have I have the what Jason Fick wrote about it.
Wait, we actually have it.
Do you have,
I pulled
do you have
it up.
Section 1 and 2?
Yeah, I got it right in front of us.
So Section C2 is the one that we're all familiar with. It talks about...
So C1 says treatment of publisher or speaker. No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider, which is like the individual. 2 is civil liability. No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be held liable on account of A, any action voluntarily taken in good faith to restrict access to or availability of material the provider or user considers to be obscene, lewd, lascivious, filthy, excessively violent, harassing, or otherwise objectionable, whether or not such material is constitutionally protected, or B, any action taken to enable or make available to information content providers or others the technical means to restrict access to material described in paragraph 1. So basically the first C1 is I'm not liable for what another person said. C2 is we're allowed to remove whatever we want as long as we're doing it in good faith, which basically at this point means literally whatever they want.
And you could argue that if they're putting like a notice out that says Tim Pool posted fake news, that they're become a publisher under Section 1, C1.
So what I'm saying is, let me tell you the story. I posted something about Bill Clinton and Epstein Island. Everything I said was factually correct. I said Bill Clinton was seen in these flight logs. He was seen on the plane. He was ID'd by a witness on the island, and this is not major breaking news. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing right now because I don't have the tweet in front of me. But somebody screenshotted it because it went viral, posted it to Facebook, and Facebook put a card over it saying false information or something.
Yeah.
That was Facebook doing that. Facebook put a flag saying false information on my post. They made a statement about me that I had lied to the public.
So then
Facebook refused to take it down.
They become a publisher at that point under C1?
They are the speaker.
Yeah, seems like that. I think that's a good argument.
Yep.
And if you look at the definition of development, which is actually in the law, it says, choosing to promote, prioritize. Well, this is not the law, but basically choosing to promote, prioritize, advance, boost, or increase the availability or usability of information is by definition development. Go look up development in Webster's. So I'm reading from Jason Fick's analysis. But yeah, I mean, the service provider... Yeah, they're sponsoring ads. So the entire nature of their business violates Section 230.
Yeah.
Because what do they do all day? They boost ads. They place other people's content in front of other people's content.
Oh, wow. So that negates it.
Yeah, that negates the immunity.
That makes sense because one of the arguments that we've all been saying about Twitter and Facebook for a long time is if they choose the winners and losers, they may as well be the New York Times. The only difference, the New York Times says, I hire you, write for me, and then they choose which to go up on the site. Whereas Twitter is everybody write for free, and then we'll choose which ones go up on the site.
Yeah, and even Clarence Thomas, in his opinion, and that was Malwarebytes versus Enigma Software, and that was this past Tuesday, October 13th.
Wow, so recently.
Yeah, very recent.
Wow.
And so he said the Ninth Circuit Court incorrectly held that subsection 230C1 does not render subsection 230C2A redundant, as subsection 230C2 provides an additional shield from liability. So there was some redundancy, so that's why it needs to be reinterpreted either by AgitPi. But I agree with you, or the Supreme Court, but I agree with you because we had that antitrust hearing a couple months ago where we had the tech CEOs testify. I guess there's another subpoena. But Jim Sensenbrenner, this congressman from Wisconsin, he's been in like 21 terms, and he's out there saying, well, we shouldn't punish successful companies.
Because he's a Republican, right?
He's Republican.
Go figure.
But
the rhinos and the dinos have been sitting in there milking the system, suckling the teat of big business. Yeah. And that's why I don't vote. And that's why I'm voting now, because I think something's happening. You've got on the left and the right populists. And I think the left hates the right. The right hates, well, I shouldn't say hate, but they think both sides think each other is crazy.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I would rather I want to see these people who sat in office for decades doing nothing, saying the bare minimum, taking cash from big corporations, and then just being like, oh, whatever, I'm not going to do anything for you. Who cares if the people are suffering? You got a job, huh? Congratulations, but I hope it was worth it.
But yeah, just to summarize Section 230, I mean, imagine like your public library, and you go to the public library, and the library itself is not responsible for what's in the content of those books, right? But whereas if you go to Barnes and Noble, like they're promoting certain books, there's certain books that are on special. So that's kind of the difference. And so Facebook's kind of morphed from a public library into this Barnes and Noble, so to speak.
Yeah. We have at Minds, if it's not legal in the United States, then it's taken down. And it's actually state by state. And it's a Connecticut thing because that's where the corporation's based. So if it's not legal in Connecticut, it's taken off the site. But if it's legal, it stays on the site. It just goes into different buckets depending on if it's objectionable. And then you have to opt in to see objectionable content. By default, everyone kind of has the rated G filter on. And
that's interesting because Jack Dorsey's talked about that. Like some kind of system where instead of getting banned, I think it was Jack. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. But there was I think it was Jack Dorsey. If instead of getting banned, you get put in basically like the underbelly. And people can choose to go into the dark crevice of horror Twitter and see all of the nasty pictures and photos and people.
And it's still like up to discretion what's nasty. And that's a little weird because you put it in the terms and like objectionable is a horrible word to use because like how do you define that? It's up to the admin basically.
Yeah.
But how, I don't know. We kind of have our peers can judge now. We've got like a 12-person jury system where if they judge that it's objectionable, then it goes to the objectionable thing and you can appeal that objectionable,
That's a great
rating.
idea.
I like that.
So actually, this really actually relates to something I was researching. So back in the it started in the 20s, but in England, there was this thing called the British Board of Film Censors. So it was basically that, like, hey, there's this consensus opinion, what's culturally appropriate. Obviously, things that we see on TV would be, obscene to someone from 100 years ago, like living in the 1920s. So what's acceptable publicly to be viewed? And so this British Board of Film Censors, there's this documentary called Video Nasties. You can search it on YouTube. And it talks about how the British Board of Film Censorship basically, could make their own rules. So this famous quote from John Trevelyan, he said, we have no rules, which I think is important. I think it's the only way to do it. You see, if you have your rules, you either got to stick to them or you have to interpret them. And I think either is foolish. So he's basically admitting, like, hey, we're in charge of the film censorship. We determine whether the movies get approved or not whether they don't get approved. And we have no rules. And it really made me think of Facebook because sure, they have the rules, but they don't follow them half the time. They make exceptions whenever they want to protect someone that they want to protect.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.